Okay, so I think we can start. So welcome everyone, people in the room, also online participants. My name is Deborah Drucker. I'm one of the IGAD co-chairs. I work at Embrapa, the Brazilian Corporation for Research in Agriculture. And we have my colleague Cindy Parr online from USDS, the United States Department of Agriculture, chairing the session with me virtually. So IGAD is the first community of practice of RDA. We are the Improvo Global Agricultural Data Community of Practice. We became a community of practice a year ago, and we are inviting you all to contribute to our first steps and how to move the community forward. So let me see if this works. Yes. So our agenda for today, our objective here is to update on our activities and discuss a roadmap for the future of our community of practice. So we are having some updates from the community. We will have my colleague Martin Treckles here presenting our case study on plant pollinator data right after the updates. After that, we're going to have our two grantees from IOSCA grant, Marina and Viorica, talking about their work on building a knowledge sharing community between the Republic of Moldova, Georgia, and RDA. And then we will have Cindy, my colleague, co-chair of IGAD, talking about our cross fertilization workshop that we had in November last year. And after that, we will present you the new group of liaisons of IGAD and have a discussion among the liaisons and a discussion with the participants on site and online and on our priorities and what we should address as future challenges, and finish with an overview of what we are having in June as a 10th anniversary celebration of RDA. So the updates are mainly related to the coordination of the group. So we would like to thank Ima Subrats from FEO, who has been our chair for many years for IGAD. So she stepped down and we are very much grateful for all the work she conducted within our group. And we welcome Sushi, Marina, and Piotr as the new co-chairs of our group. So now we have Cindy, myself, Marina, Piotr, that we will meet today, and Sushi and Valeria as co-chairs. So as the community of practice is a large step, we included more co-chairs to help with these challenges. So as we have a very busy agenda, I will invite Martin Treckles from Mais Botanic Garden in Belgium to talk about the World Fair project and specifically the case study on plant pollinator data. So we can use this one.
Thank you very much.
I think we are shifting speakers now, so if you can change. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Deborah, for the introduction. So yes, I'm Maarten Trekels from Mais Botanic Garden, and we are involved in the World Fair project, which is a Horizon Europe project, but a kind of special Horizon Europe project where we could include international partners. And so it's mainly driven by RDA and CoData. but with partners all over the globe, including Africa and Latin America. This is it's a 2-year project where we try to get the FAIR principles better implemented in a range of disciplines. So not only agriculture, but many other disciplines, and we'll come back to that. We try to make these disciplines more interoperable. If we want to do more integrated research, we have to make sure that we can talk to each other and we're talking about the same thing. This is also a very important partnership between CoData and the RDA. So in this work package, there are some general work packages about FAIR data, but there are also 11 case studies, each from a different discipline. So we have chemistry, physics, social sciences, some cultural heritage, but then also a part which is devoted to biodiversity. We have just the biodiversity work package, which is mainly GBIF running this work package, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. But then also the agricultural biodiversity, where we specifically focus on plant-pollinator interactions within agriculture. And so you will see this petal diagram will show up everywhere in the World Fair project, where you can see that the colors also kind of already match to fields that are already close to each other, but we try to close the gaps between all of them. So agriculture biodiversity, and I took this from the grant agreement. What's actually the idea of our task or our work package within the World Fair project is to ensure FAIR data to understand plant-pollinator interactions and how this is relevant for agricultural crops. And this is a statement that 75% of all the croplands are animal pollinated, so they are having a big impact on the world yield of food supply. Within this work package, we have 3 tasks. First, there is a discovery phase. It's a task that I'm coordinating within this work package. And in this task, we are trying to get an overview of what kind of data is available, generally on plant-pollinator interactions, but also on agricultural data. And we try to map out the landscape where we are working on. From this first initial discovery phase, the idea is that we can select 5 pilot projects, so 5 cases where we try to advance the fairness of their data. So we will have some kind of real use cases of people that want to share their data or want to make their data more fair. And we are going to map out what is the effort needed to bring them to that next level. And then in a third task, we are more looking at the assessment. How much does it cost to get these people to this more fair data, and what is needed for that? Again, in this task, so what we promised in this project is to collect as many use cases as possible. And so the reason that I'm standing here is also written down explicitly in the grant agreement, is to go to relevant conferences such as this one, to find these relevant use cases, to motivate people to show their data, come up with data sources that we didn't realize that are existing, and just come to talk to us and see where we can continue our collaboration. So we really need you. We really want to get more information about agricultural data that's around. And so basically, if you know of certain databases, data sets that exist on agricultural data that contain plant-pollinator interactions, please come talk to us, talk to me, send us an email, and we can go further from there. So what did we achieve so far? So with the available data sets that we know of, and we actually started rather small. We started with all the data sets that we are really familiar with. That is the data sets that are currently on GBIF, GLOBI, which is the Global Biotic Interactions Database, and the Brazilian Plant Pollinator Interaction Network. We started off from these and we started creating fair implementation profiles. Maybe to have a bit of background on this, what is a fair implementation profile? Basically, and it's to make it easy and workable, we started with a spreadsheet. It's a list of all the FAIR principles, and then try to match these data sets or the properties of these data sets against these FAIR principles. For example, what unique identifier is used in your case? And we found that in some of the data sets, a DOI was used. So DOI is one of these FAIR enabling resources that are used within plant pollinator data. And so we started off with these data sets we know, and we tried to make this effort to make this kind of profiles about our data. And then within there is something which is called the FIP Wizard, which is an online tool to create these profiles. So basically, all the data that we gathered in a spreadsheet by discussion, by talking to each other, were then transformed into this nice online tool, which then can be used to make a nano publication out of these FAIR implementation profiles so that they become available to anyone. And this was a very good exercise because this really makes you sit down and think about how do we cope with this FAIR principle? Do we handle this correctly? What are still the gaps in our data sets that we could find? But of course, since we started off with the data sets we know, this is rather simple. In task 1, we actually went further to look for other data sets, because if you look at plant pollinator interactions, there are many ways that people are recording this plant pollinator interactions, either in spreadsheets or just in plain text. There are a number of different ways to describe how species interact in certain circumstances. So in order to get a better overview on what is all around, we actually started collecting all this kind of data. And we used actually within our work package, the big geographic spread that we had of people around to go and look in their own areas. What are the typical ways of collecting plant pollinator data in your geographic zone? And so we have a spreadsheet. This is still an open spreadsheet for everyone. So I've put the QR code on it. If you still are aware of data sets that we really should be knowing of, please go into that spreadsheet and try to add them for us, and we can take them in our analysis. So what are the next steps? So we are now in this collecting phase. We did collect a lot. We also went, if you take GLOBI, so the Global Biotic Interactions Database, GLOBI is already a kind of aggregator that uses the base data sets to extract species interaction data. So we want now to come up with some kind of metric to assess the fairness of this all these data sets that we found. And we want to assess them all first. Oh, sorry, that was too fast. In an automated way. So for all the data sets where we have an electronic record of it, we are trying to develop now some scripts to assess them. How fair are these data? What is needed to get them in a better state? But there will be a lot of records, and we already saw some, for example, plant pollinator data that is only available as a website, that we will have to do some manual assessment as well to see how far we can go. And then based on this assessment that we do, we can make an informed decision on which pilot which pilot studies we are going to use to make them fair, or to try to publish them in a fair way. So there is some manual work going on here, but there is also on a big scale going to all the data sets where we can find electronic records of. But within the World Fair project, we started also discussing with the other work packages. And so we did see a lot of opportunities within this World Fair project as well. So outside the scope of what was defined within our work package, there are other aspects that we can continue working on. One of them is, for example, the GBIF Unified Data Model. So the other work package on biodiversity, they try to enhance their data model to also cope with many different kind of data sets. So we really have to push some effort to get the plant-pollinator interactions well represented in this. So we have to talk to each other around this. And then CoData is leading an effort in something which is called the cross-domain interoperability framework. What they are trying to do in this one is to find overlap between all the domains which are in World Fair, and to find some common grounds, some common metadata that we can share between each other so that we can use our data in a common way. And an easy example that you can think of is there is some kind of natural disaster going on. What can other data from other domains help us understand this and help us get further in the future? What they are not trying to do within this CDIF work is to invent a new standard. So they're not aiming at getting a new standard in the CDIF work, but try to find the common standards between all these domains that we can use to describe the interoperability between those domains. So also there we really have to get engaged with our work package, make sure that people understand our case, because plant-pollinator interaction can be complex at times. So we really are in discussions with them to help increasing the interoperability between the domains. And that's what I wanted to talk about. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
So thank you so much, Martin, for your presentation. I think it's really important that the community is aware of what's going on in our several sub-disciplines within agriculture. And we have time for one question in the room or online, if there is. So Clement, can I use this one? But the online people won't. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. It's working here. People can hear me here. Just wanted to ask, in the context of this cross-domain interoperability framework, I mean, have you guys identified specific ontologies or semantic resources that you want to use on which you want to rely? And the complementary of the question, do you know how you're going to get access to them and use them?
So we are still in the beginning of this, and CoData has prepared like a draft document on this, but one of the data standards that came out as one of the very promising one is schema.org, because schema.org is really covering a broad area, broad domain, and there is something which is called bioschemas, which is just a special case of schema.org where you also can describe taxonomy and samples, for example. So that's one of the promising candidates. There was another one with DCAT. Yes.
So tomorrow there will be a side event on the CDIF that's open for anyone interested. If you're still here and interested, you can go to the RDA plenary program and register yourself either online or in person. So thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you very much.
It's been great working with you. I don't know if there is any question. Sorry, I will ask you to come back here because Richard Ostler is asking, are you aligning with Darwin Core survey event? We are using this for agroecology survey data.
I have to think about this because the survey events. So basically, when GBIF is now redoing their data model, they are trying to make it more event centric. So up to now, we're looking at the biological organism, the occurrence, as the center of their data model, but they try to move now to a more event-based model where the event is the center. So time, place, yes, that's the two ones, time and place as the center where the thing happened, and then all the other data hanging around it. So I guess there is some overlap there.
Yeah, it's the same as far as we understood so far. The event is the core for the new GBIF data model. So I think we are aligned, and it will be great to discuss more with you, Richard. Are there any other questions from the online participants, Cindy?
No, we just posted, thank you to Yasuhiro for posting the notes session, the Google Doc for the session notes. I appreciate that. I did post a link to the spreadsheet where we're collecting the literature and data for the World Fair project.
Great. Thank you so much, Martin. So let's move on to our next part of the session. So World Fair is one of the grants within IGAD that we are working on. So we thought it was important to present to the community. And now we are inviting our two grantees from the IOSC program within RDA, Marina I'm sorry, Marina.
Razmadze.
Hello.
Razmadze, hello.
And Viorica Lupo. For the next 15 minutes, they will have a conversation with us on their work within this IOSC RDA program. So the floor is yours.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon. Good day, dear participants, dear attendees. Dear Deborah, thank you for a welcoming speech, for introducing us to the audience. I am Marina Razmadze, researcher and deputy director at the Institute of Scientific and Technical Information, TechInform in Georgia. And I would also like to greet my colleague, Viorica Lupu from Republic of Moldova. It is a great pleasure for us to participate in Research Data Alliance 10th anniversary plenary meeting. And today, me and Viorica, one of the grantees of RDA and the IOSC Future platform, open calls platform, would like to share with you our humble experience on how we joined the RDA, how we contribute and striving to improve the global agricultural data community of practice. We are going to talk about our current activities, future plans, challenges, and expectations in terms of engaging with the scientific communities and raising awareness of target societies. However, I would like to surprise you with the information that we did not prepare any official presentation. We decided to deliver this part of the session without slides and to convey our messages through the live discussion between two of us. Our honest intention is and motivation to have the discussion as open as possible, interactive and clear. Talk about our experiences, use cases, and lessons we have learned over the past few months. I hope that this conversation as a format of dialogue will be interesting, inspiring for you and for our community as well. Dear Viorica, and if you don't mind, I would like to address you and to start our conversation and to open this dialogue. Would you? Please turn on your microphone.
Did you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, everyone, dear participants. I am Viorica Lupu from the Republic of Moldova, Deputy Director at the Scientific Library of the Technical University of Moldova. As Marina already mentioned, we are pleased to participate in today's event and share our story of involvement to the RDA and integration of the local agricultural communities to IGAD activities and also working groups. If you look from the perspective of both countries, I would like to highlight that the European integration is one of the major priorities for the Republic of Moldova and Georgia, and the research and innovation system in both countries should comply with and international practices. Moldova and Georgia, like other countries, aligns itself with a international context of concerns for open science and interoperability principles. Recognize the importance of IOSC's insights and activities. It is also necessary to promote and implement open science policies, integrate fair practices into the research ecosystem of Republic of Moldova and Georgia. Being aware of the importance and the role of open science from the scientific community and the scientific progress of our countries, Moldova and Georgia has made some international commitments by declaring their intention to integrate into the European research area. For example, in the case of the Republic of Moldova, our country participates in the several following IOSC pillars, such as GIANT, NGI, IOSC-related projects, and etc. Today, there are too many incentives and opportunities that are available and equally accessible for everyone. Nevertheless, it should be mentioned at the same time that the implementation of open data and fair principles in general, and particularly in countries like Republic of Moldova and Georgia, represent a complex and expensive process, which requires a lot of expertise, collaboration, interoperability, efficient coordination models, human resources with appropriate skills. Also, there is a strong need for both general effort to open up research results that are increasingly based on data-intensive use, and an effort made by the disciplinary communities members to prioritize, organize, and coordinate community-specific needs.
Yes, dear Viorica, you're absolutely right. And since you have touched one of the common and relevant issue for both countries, I would like to add some notes from my side as well. Georgia, during the past years, is heading for full integration into the global open science movement in order to make scientific research and its dissemination accessible to all levels of society, whether you are an enthusiast or a professional one. And so openness leads to the innovation. Accordingly, our country strives for open science and fair principles where collaboration is encouraged. And the primary objective is to make the world a better place for the scientific innovation. As a representative of one of the multidisciplinary organization, Institute of Scientific and Technical Information in Georgia, and despite of all efforts and facts that our institute, together with the partner network organizations, tirelessly supports this movement with the collection and communication of feedbacks between country-specific community and regional and governmental authorities, there is still a lack of practices and awareness in context of open science policies and fair principles among researcher communities and policymakers as well. Today, our institute is the largest provider of information services in Georgia. It is, as I already mentioned, it is multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary research institute, and one of the direction of which is a information management in agriculture sector, and a strong and long-term cooperation with the food and agriculture organizations helps Georgians and Moldovan researchers from agricultural field became more visible and searchable through the well-known services and products like FAO Agravac Thesaurus, Research for Life programs, and Agris database as well. And I would like to underline that the Georgia and Republic of Moldova Moldova became the first agri-country hubs among 150 countries in 2020 year. And I could speak a lot about the benefits of being a country hubs and its contribution to the local agricultural communities, but it is another story. In this session, me and Viorica would like to draw your attention on how we have joined RDA and became a member of the improving global agricultural data community of practice, which really represents today a community designated to deal with all issues related to agricultural research data.
Dear Marina, very interesting notes from Georgia. And it's hard to disagree with the fact that both of our countries overcame a long road at the national level before joining IOSC activities, Research Data Alliance, IGAD, and working group initiatives. On the clear examples of mentioned is that from June to October of 2021, we, Georgia and Moldova, have joined and participated in IGAD Coffee Break webinar series, organized by the IGAD and disseminated via FAO AIMS knowledge sharing platform. 9 unique webinars were pushed us to dive in deep to the RDA and well-related activities. After attending mentioned webinars organized by the IGAD and gaining experience in delivering capacity development activities as agri-country hubs in Georgia and Republic of Moldova, we have joined the IOSC Future project focused on communities of practices and coordinated through the Research Data Alliance. It should be underlined that the IGAD webinars was the opportunity to follow the steps behind the initiatives taken by institutions from various countries in the context of management, openness, and sharing of research data in the field of agriculture. The practices and knowledge acquired help us to elucidate various organizational, ethical, and cultural aspects regarding data management, and also to outline some strategies related to the management of agricultural research data in the Republic of Moldova and also in Georgia. Speaking honestly, the experience of our institutions as agri-country hubs had a positive and clear effect, serving as a bridge to the RDA and IOSC Future platform.
Yes, absolutely true, my dear colleague. Today, in era of the rapid change and technological breakthroughs, it is extremely important to communicate more closely and share common values with the world's domain-oriented scientific communities. RDA is an organization with shared values and goals, and one of the core missions of which is supporting the global research and create more open, accessible communities to drive scientific, data-driven discovery forward. Moreover, I would like to highlight that this initiative of RDA and the IOSC Future platform paved the way for us to become a member of domain-specific RDA working groups and related and connected to all related events. Today, the RDA and IOSC share an absolutely common vision. At the same time, aligning with the IOSC and RDA policies and practices will open up new opportunities to interaction and collaboration with experts. Will create new knowledge to promote an era of professional practices, and will improve data sharing, exchange, and interoperability. And from my point of view, one of the special benefits of being part of the RDA network is an opportunity to be in touch with a multicultural and diverse community of stakeholders, researchers, and community of practices from all the world. And it is a better alignment with the global practices and an opportunity to form partnerships on specific project issues with experts of other countries, and to bridge the national efforts and activities with the international initiatives as well.
May I add a couple of words, Marina?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
I would like to emphasize that in addition to all that was mentioned by you, and despite all the efforts and the WASC-related activities initiated by the respective organizations and others at the national level, in both countries, the Research Data Alliance, unfortunately, is still less known in our institutions and among the scientific communities. Accordingly, our current RDA project from the Future WASC platform and all related activities will focus on awareness and capacity building among the target communities of the Republic of Moldova and Georgia. And as we jumped to our project related activities, my dear colleague, if I may, I will present a brief overview of the main activities which are already implemented at the national level in order to overcome the first barriers and in terms of awareness and understanding of Research Data Alliance principles and values.
Yes, with pleasure. Go ahead.
Thank you, Marina. In my current project named Enhancing Awareness about Open Data in Food and Agriculture in the Republic of Moldova, we have already implemented a number of activities that have brought us to a new level of communication and engagement with the targeted people from the field of agriculture in the Republic of Moldova. The main objectives of the mentioned project are regarding to studying and understanding the attitudes of researchers in agriculture in the Republic of Moldova on research data, also encouraging to make agricultural data fair and raising awareness among the agricultural community members in the Republic of Moldova about the activity of Research Data Alliance and the practices of research data management. The first step was the elaboration and conducting a survey on the opinions and attitudes of researchers in agriculture in the Republic of Moldova related of opening, sharing and exchange of research data. About 130 people participated in the and the respondents were recruited from agricultural faculties of the Technical University of Moldova and also from research institutes related to agricultural sciences from the country. This study helps us to identify problems and challenges the researchers are facing, to analyze the particularities and possibilities of research communities in the Republic of Moldova to align with the open data movement and fair principles. I also would like to say that the Moldavian researchers' attitudes are not different from open data perception and attitudes of researchers from other countries, because most researchers accept to share their research data, but they reported a lot of barriers, such as insufficient time and the lack of abilities, misuse or misinterpretation of data, losing control over intellectual property, data security and privacy concerns, etc. But I also would like to mention about the difficulties encountered during the survey. They were at the stage of data collection. The respondents were very resistant to filling out the questionnaire. Thus, it was necessary not only to disseminate it via email, but also to contact personally a large number of respondents by phone in order to encourage them to participate in this survey. By the way, we have already prepared the first draft version of...
I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you. We need to move on with the agenda, otherwise we won't be able to cover it all. I'm really sorry to interrupt you. I don't think you saw my warnings on time. but I would like to thank you very much, you and Marina, for your presentation here. We have on the slides the material. I think the slides
Sorry
will
for
be
this,
on
please.
right now. So if anyone has any specific questions or would like to talk to Marina and Viorik specifically about the EOS grant, please, you will have access to the materials, and you have the contacts of them, and they will be back today in the session on the panel of liaisons, so we can continue this conversation. Apologies for the interruption, but we really need to move forward. Thank you very much.
Our apologies.
Okay, no problem. We will have an opportunity to share some specific examples. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Deborah, you will need to share the slides.
Yeah, I think the team is going to project. Yeah,
Okay.
if you can put back to our slides. Yeah. So
there we go.
Thank you very much. So as I was saying, we have this. I'm not sure if this is working. Yeah, we have more information about our presenters, and anyone can contact them directly. So moving on with our agenda today, I will hand it over to Cindy Parr, my colleague, co-chair of IGAD, to talk about the cross-fertilization workshop that we had in November last year. So please, Cindy, handing over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Deborah. So first of all, I'll say that this community cross-fertilization workshop was, I believe, the first one that RDA helped organize as part of the preparation for this 10th anniversary year. And I'll apologize in advance. I don't have the 10th anniversary slide as my background. Instead, I've got the Year of Open Science here in the United States. We are celebrating a year of open science, which is, of course, highly related to the work that RDA does. And please let me know if you have questions about that. So this workshop, I'll just briefly provide an overview of the activities. We conducted a survey back in October that 17 people completed to gather some background information for the survey. And then we had a Zoom workshop facilitated by Connie Claire. If Connie's in the audience, thank you so much for helping to get this organized. It was extremely successful, and Connie put together the report that I've listed here on the slide. So you're welcome to go see the detailed report. I will say that the 17 people who completed the survey were mostly not the people who were there in person. So we actually have a pretty good sample size. Later in the session today, we'll do a little bit more surveying to get more information from those of you who weren't able to take part in that workshop. So the workshop essentially was helping our community of practice identify challenges that our participants are facing, and to gather input on the interest that we have in other parts of RDA that might be able to help us meet those challenges, and to help us develop a roadmap for us. So if you go to the next slide, the results of the survey and the workshop highlighted these 5 overarching actions that we could take to address our challenges. And so the first one is to collect case studies to demonstrate the benefits of open agricultural data. There's an ongoing interest in continuing capacity building for digital literacy within the Global South. We are interested in identifying the agricultural data that can be reused and making sure that there's good attribution for that data. And one of the ideas that emerged was to organize a hackathon. There are many folks here in our community who are interested in public-private partnerships to help us tackle data challenges in the space of agriculture. Obviously, there's a lot of commercial industry, and we need to be working with them to tackle these data challenges. And then the final idea here is to create a working group to develop ontologies and semantics. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that that one, we actually have a working group for agri-semantics that has been very active in the past, but perhaps we can pivot that group to focus more on implementation and adoption of those ontologies that have already been identified. And then the other actions that we can prioritize are to develop those case studies, particularly with non-European or non-American focus. Obviously, develop those public-private partnerships and work again to do capacity building within the Global South. So that's all I'm going to say for now, but I'll be back with a survey as we move to our discussion later in the session. Thank you. Turning it back to you, Deborah.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for this overview. I think it's a great, there are great opportunities for us to move on as a community of practice. So I'm looking forward for the discussion in the sequence. So our next item in the agenda is the panel of liaisons. What Cindy, Valeria, and Ima and myself thought it was for us to move forward as a community of practice, we needed to assemble more representatives from networks of either thematic or regional representatives for us to really act as a global community. That was something that we had put as an objective in our chart when we became a community of practice. So I am really honored to present you our group. So the liaisons group, we have this all those representatives here: Mukirini Aga, Marina Hamshans. I'm sorry, Marina. I will learn how to say pronounce your name.
Razmadze, Marina Razmadze.
Razmadze, Richard Ostler, Joseph Wafula, Patricia Bertin, James Macklin, Piotr Zaborowski, Dario Superio, Enrico Buniati, Brent Camp, Cario Chavata, and Viorica Lupo. So we are going to put more information about all of them at our webpage. But today we have 6 of them here participating online, the ones that are in bold here. So we would like to have them the chance to present themselves. So we have lightning talks for them to talk who they are, and then we are going to promote the discussion. So please, Carol, if you can open your mic and present yourself, please do so.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm happy to be here. So I am now representing mainly Plan for All as it is international organization, it is international network dealing mainly with open data, with strong focus on agriculture, but also open sources and other. I am also working for Wireless Info. Wireless Info is private research institute focusing on agriculture, and I am one from the older persons working already 40 years about research in remote sensing geographic information system with main focus on agriculture, but also forestry, environment, and other topics. I am co-chair of agriculture domain working group in OGC. I am a member of program board of GEO, because Plan for All is a participating organization of GEO. So I am already many years member of IGAD research Data Alliance group, and inside of this RDA, my main focus is on extension of ICT, new ICT, open data, and also capacity building in agriculture.
Thank you so much, Carol. It's great to have you on board with us.
It is a pleasure for me. Unfortunately, I am not able to be present directly.
Well, we hope you will be able to get together in person soon, but it's great that you have the availability to come remotely. And now we're moving to Brent Camp. Please, Brent, if you can unmute yourself and present yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm Brent Kemp, representing Ag Gateway. I'm here just outside of Richmond, Virginia in the United States. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for having this opportunity for those of us who aren't able to be in person to attend virtually. Ag Gateway is a global non-for-profit trade association. We're focused on developing resources and relationships that enable digital agriculture. So as you can imagine, we are represented, or I'm representing member organizations, typically companies, but also organizations like universities, government agencies, other nonprofits, as well as other trade associations. We do have a few individuals who are themselves members, but by and large, our membership is corporate. We have interests and activities in Europe, Latin America, primarily in Brazil, but not exclusively to Brazil, as well as North America. The resources that Ag Gateway and its members have developed are currently used around the world. In addition to the regions and countries that I just referenced, we do know that, that our resources are being used in Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. We have core interests in data interoperability for business efficiency and sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, we include profitability for all stakeholders in that. Stakeholders throughout the value chain that begin with input providers and continue down through farmers, producers. We act as a neutral third party for maintaining and serving certain reference data to the industry. This is in order to facilitate e-business, but I want to make it very clear that we're not ourselves a service provider. We don't process, store, or exchange any operational or transactional data except in very limited circumstances when we're testing a resource, for instance. Our members are the ones who identify the priorities, provide volunteers to work through issues and document solutions, and agree to implement the solutions that are developed. They have a vested interest in doing so, after all. We operate in what we consider a pre-competitive space. The resources and standards and guidelines that are developed are applicable for nearly any party to implement. And we've worked informally with other global organizations to assist in identifying attitudes and needs of smallholders in respect to technology-enabled farming.
Okay. I'm sorry, Brent, we need to move so we have time for everyone to talk, but
Sure
you
thing.
will be back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Richard, it's your turn. Please introduce yourself and welcome.
Thank you, Deborah. Hi, I'm Richard Osler from Rothamsted Research and Rothamsted in the UK, and at Rothamsted I head up the Research Data and Systems team. So my background is a research software engineer, but I've moved much more into data management and training within the agricultural data sector. So the core responsibility of our team is to improve access to our data, which ranges from sort of agroecology, sort of, landscape level surveys, right the way through down to multi-omics data, so transcriptomics, proteomics from plant sciences. But I do have a special interest in long-term agricultural experiments. So Rothamsted is home to the world's longest running agricultural experiment, Broadwalk, which is celebrating its 180th year this year. And that's really where I started at Rothamsted, was working with the long-term experiments. And we are currently developing a community called the Global Long-Term Agricultural Experiment Network, And part of what we're doing there is developing standards and systems to improve the discovery and the visibility of these really quite important experiments. As well as heading up the data team, I'm one of the new Elixir UK Data Stewardship Fellows. So the Elixir Data Stewardship Fellow Programme, it has a responsibility to improve research data management, training and capacity development within both local institutes, but also across the life sciences. I'm also co-chair in the UK of the Environmental Observation Framework, so we have an advisory role to various UK government organisations collecting and managing environmental data. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. So please, Pietro, welcome and introduce yourself.
I hope you hear me. My name is Piotr Zabrowski, and I'm representing also the consortium of partners called OGC, Open Geospatial Consortium, already 30 years almost in working on the interoperability of the geospatial information at most, but of the data that we are sharing is domain specific. Agriculture is one of the domains that we want to make this data according to the FAIR principles, now trust principles, but in general interoperable on these multiple levels, from the findable resources to data exchange and reusable. So actually now we are focused on the engineering some of the mechanisms that you may already know, and I'm pretty sure you're using in the web technologies, and to on the other hand to link it with the domain models. So we are putting more effort in the semantics and linked data now, but this is just a support to our members and actually contribution to our members. So that's shortly, and I believe we'll come back to that discussion in a second.
Thank you so much, Pietro. Piotr. So Piotr and Marina are the liaisons group's leaders, and that's why they are also now the new chairs of our community of practice. And I'm very happy to have assembled such an representative group of professionals, and I'm really looking forward to working with you all and building this community together. As on interest of time, we have 30 minutes now, and we were planning initially to have a discussion specifically with the liaisons, but for us to really be able to capture the contributions of all the participants, so we don't have so many people in the room and also online, but if we sum all of them, we have roughly 30 participants. And as far as I am aware, IGAD has always been a more focused community within RDA because it's discipline focused, and we will really like to have you all participating here in the discussion. So I will hand it over to Cindy, but you can scan this for the ones who are in the room here. If you scan this QR code, you will go directly to the poll. You can also type the menti.com and the code here. So please help us prioritize the future challenges. And so Cindy already gave an overview for us of the previous workshop, and it's very important for us to have your input here as well and help us with the discussion. So please, Cindy, is there any other instructions you would like to give, or the floor is yours?
Thank you, Deborah. So yes, I definitely invite the liaisons to be prepared to engage in this discussion, particularly from the standpoint of the organizations that you represent. Even though we don't have hundreds of people here in the room, all of those liaisons are actually representing hundreds of people collectively who are not here. So we're looking to you to represent your communities with us here. So I just want to give a moment for everybody to get to the website and click the thumbs up button so I can get a sense that everybody is ready for us to move on. So I only see about 12. Well, now I see a lot of thumbs up coming. I'm not sure if everybody, are people in the room able to get to the poll? I'm going to do a quick check to see the chat.
We have some thumbs up. We have some thumbs up in the room as well. So.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the first slide and see how this is going to work. Of course, my internet is unstable right now. So you will see when you look at your Menti screen, a long list of different RDA groups. And these are particularly the ones that I know are having sessions at this plenary. So it's a slightly different set than what was identified in the report from the workshop, but I thought that it would be good, especially for those of you who are present physically, to let us know which groups are you participating in now, and therefore you're very actively engaged. So if you can just scan through the list, you can select as many of these as you like. But we're particularly interested in the ones that you've already joined and that you're already participating in. And so therefore there's a good connection between you and these other groups. Okay, good. I'm seeing lots of bars coming up. Some of these are slightly different than the ones that we identified in the workshop. So this is good. I was hoping that we would have perhaps a good representative sample here. This is excellent. Looks like we have about 8 people responding. So I'm going to give you a few more seconds to provide your answers. I know this is only about half the people who originally said they were going to take the poll. And if you're in the room and not a member of IGAD, but you're interested, absolutely, please take this poll because we want to be able to understand you. And as we think about those case studies that we said could be a priority for us to take action on, we want to know which groups we should prepare case studies for, which topic areas. Okay, so I want to leave plenty of time for discussion, so I'm going to go to the next poll, which is the same groups, but that look interesting to you. And this will also help us find opportunities to connect you with other parts of RDA that are perhaps more topical, so not specific to agriculture, but
I think we missed Cindy.
in.
Cindy, you were freeze for a few seconds. Are you back? Yeah, so I think. Oh, are you back, Cindy?
I'm back. I think my computer is working overtime here. So I can see the poll. I can see that we're getting responses.
Maybe you can share it again.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay. These are very colorful and this is good. Looks like we do have broad interest. There is also an other category here in case there are groups that I don't have listed here on the slides. And if you could share those when we get to the discussion, that would be great. Okay, and this is the last slide. Which challenges should be a priority for us? And I've listed the more granular challenges that were grouped into some of the major areas for IGAD, but I wanted to break them apart here because some of them might rise to the top for you. And I wanted to name them. So things like interoperability, sustainable funding, partnerships. Here, just choose up to 4 because we are trying to prioritize here. Obviously, all of these things are important: ethical reuse, data democratization, data crosswalks. All of these are important, but we're going to have to focus our energy, particularly for those case studies and which working groups we want to make case studies for.
Cindy, do you see the chat? So
Okay,
Laura?
I see. Oh, it says you could only enter one option.
That's
It's
weird.
supposed to be
Yeah.
set for up to 4, but I might not have done it properly. So
I guess
do.
it's for this previous question.
Yeah, it was for the previous question,
Oh.
but I could enter more than one. I was also responding it.
So you could enter more than one for this slide,
For
Deborah?
the previous one, that was the one Lara was asking.
Oh, okay. I see.
That's weird, Laura. So, but well, in this, I think we have a champion here in this one, don't we?
Yeah, clearly interoperability and standards is a big winner here. I think the question is, do we have particular standards and interoperability case studies that we want to tackle? Because for example, the World Fair Pollination Group is a particular example where we knew that there was a great need for standards, and so we're able to make progress on that one. So this is great. Thank you so much. The next most highest is agrobiodiversity data. Again, that's related to the pollinator work that we're already doing. And ethical reuse and open data for machine learning training are both in 3rd place. And that's great. I think there's a lot of potential overlap with work that's with other working groups in RDA. For example, there's a sensitive data working group that I think probably has some good conversation to have about ethical reuse. And I think there's some AI groups as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing so that we can have a discussion about these challenges. Well, actually, should I keep this up? Do you think, Deborah?
Yeah, I think it's good because then we can revisit the themes and anyone can see. Do you agree?
Okay.
The others?
Sure, we can keep these up. I guess what I would like to do is maybe specifically ask our liaisons if they could say a little bit about their organizations and their interests in these priorities, and that might help us understand a little bit more about the choices that you made for this slide. So would any of the liaisons like to unmute and share your thoughts on some of these priorities?
Hi, Cindy, I'm happy to start. So 2 of the things that I ticked here were the interoperability and the agrobiodiversity data. So I think there is a degree of overlap between them as well. So if I start with the agrobiodiversity data, Rothamsted, we manage a database of, or a collection, sorry, of about 40 agroecology survey data sets. So these are all botanical surveys conducted on arable fields and experimental plots. We're also collect a lot of this data within the Institute and with collaborators. And again, it's mostly botanical, but it's also quite a lot of invertebrate survey data and a growing body of citizen science data for things like earthworms and carabid beetles. So we have noticed that there is a big gap in the metadata to describe the actual surveys, and it differs between different taxa. So we are sort of developing an internal checklist to do this, and we have tried to get funding with other European partners to take this further as well. But yeah, there's definitely a gap there, but I can also see that there's potentially some complementarity with what Martin is talking about too, with the pollinator data. But yeah, and then yeah, standards, interoperability and standards, again, we do try to use them, but there are still big gaps, I think, in how we can apply them.
Well, thanks
Yeah.
for that, Richard. I think we also need to think about working groups. You know, if we wanted to develop a new working group to tackle some of those particulars, what would the working group be? Carol?
Okay, I would like to tell something about the interoperability. Yes, what I see as very interoperability is to put different communities together. Yes, because we have a number of communities which are defining some standards. But if we will have, for example, 10 standards for IoT technology, then in reality we don't have any standard, yes, because some part of community will select one, some part of other community will select other. So there is very important to put different community together and discuss how we can improve this, how we can really harmonize this different standardization effort. Generally, with this interoperability and standardization is also very close connected this question of this data for supply chain. Yes, because if we will have no interoperability, we cannot work effectively with supply chain. So I think that the interoperability can influence number of other activities, and really I see it's are clear, and so I am now happy about the discussion between IGAD and OGC and other things, because this I see as very important for future.
I think that's a really great point that you call out, Carol, that there are other communities having conversations like this. And from Ag Gateway's perspective, we all often hear that call to get folks together to avoid proliferation of standards. One of the things that we've encountered, though, is that when a particular data format is well established, whether it's regionally, whether it's industry segment, often the conversation really becomes useful when we are talking about harmonization. How do we link those standards so that interoperability is not just picking a winner, but interoperability really becomes how do we take data from one resource, one format, one syntax, one ontology, and make it understandable to another. So that's another way of tracking that interoperability conversation.
Sure,
Thank
Brent.
you.
And actually, that's the idea of crosswalks. So we can combine some of these ideas, I think. Go ahead, Deborah.
No, I just wanted to introduce Clement wants to chime in the conversation.
You guys hear me?
You're very soft.
Has been reactivated. Oh yeah, it is now.
Yeah,
there you are.
By
Good.
the time I work. That's Clément Jonquet speaking. I mean, you guys know we used to have a working group in the context of IGAD that was called Agri-Semantics, which was actually really focused on developing the aspects related to interoperability and standards. That was also a very important group for us at AgroPortal because it was like bringing up use cases and discussion for what we have to do with agriculture, agri-food ontologies in the portal. So the question on the table is also, would there be a core group motivated into restructuring such a group, or maybe with a different focus or on interoperability and standards? I mean, we see clearly here on the map that this is a question that is important for IGAD. This is one of the reasons why we have IGAD associated to the Research Data Alliance and not to another organization. I mean, and so if there are in the room or online or overall on our mailing listings people that will be interested. I know that Sophie, she cannot be in the room. Sophie Aubin was also co-animating this group, but she should be interested probably, but maybe not being as a first line person on that. So we need also turnover on those activities. But for sure, this is super important. We have seen a lot of things going on with AgroPortal over the last years. So we know that many resources are published, many crosswalks between those resources and mappings are published too. We see other communities, and because we work also with different communities building the same kind of ontology repositories. So it will make sense to actually have their feedback to see and discuss them in the context of agri-food. So really, this is really a call for trying to have part of our groups converge forces into that direction.
Thank you very much, Clement. I think it's a very good point that you're bringing. Cindy mentioned the group before, but it seems they're probably interested on reactivating the group. So I see we have some hands up here. So Richard,
In the
please.
room, Deborah, or we have a couple hands online.
I meant online, yes.
Okay, yeah, Richard is next, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think this would be a really good time to reflect on the ontologies and the adoption of the agri-semantics recommendations and just the adoptions of ontologies generally. And we've, in our own experience, we have found it very difficult to actually start applying ontologies to our own data, and a lot of the time there's gaps, and there are still some massive gaps as far as we're concerned, particularly around soils, for example. That's a huge challenge, which nobody seems to be wanting to address at the moment. But for us, it's so much of our data is soils based, and it's quite a big problem.
Mm-hmm. Peter, you're next.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Well, OGC is not specifically working on the agriculture subdomains data, so we are pretty much focused on the interoperability between geo data and agriculture. And yeah, one of these experiments is actually ending up now in our working group that will try to stabilize what we call the agriculture information model, but it can be geo agriculture information model maybe. And actually we found it not we found it hard to implement it for our data, but we found it even harder to make other people implement that and reuse that. So that's why we are trying to actually now mix a little bit the semantics and the way people are actually using the data. So now I think that we are pretty much ahead than we were a couple of years ago in a way that we can actually enhance the data and uplift it with the semantics, so with the linked data approach. And we will continue this work. Probably in this community we will invite also whoever wants to join this one or create the other group. We have already a couple of licenses in mind, but the IGAD is one of them actually, so that would be good to have this kind of conversation if anybody is happy to follow up and do it practically, do these experiments, and maybe even standardize something.
So we have a comment in the chat. I'll just share. Well, I guess Laura found the Agri-Semantics Working Group webpage, and I responded that, yeah, the Agri-Semantics group did a lot of great work, produced some recommendations, and the way that RDA typically does working groups is they're time limited. I think they're supposed to be active for 18 months, maybe sometimes a little bit longer. So I think maybe our action might be to either restart that group with a slightly new focus or propose a related group with specific goals for a new working group. And then Brent says that he'd love to catch up with Richard and talk about soils related issues. There's a working group on that in a similar context in North America and in Brazil. And I'll add, yes, I think USDA is involved in soils related work as well. And so we certainly have people who would be interested in that. And so maybe others, if you want to put into the chat, if you're also interested, maybe that could become the seed for a focus for a new working group.
Yeah,
Peter. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would suggest that you continue this conversation within the IGAD webpage, posting to the community, so more and more of our participants can be aware of what's going on. I think it's something that's been said already today, that there are many works on standards going on, and perhaps people are not aware. So let's give more visibility for what's already out there, so we can build what is needed that's not there yet. And I also would like to know if anyone else in the room would like to contribute to the discussion here. We have a hand, just a minute for the online people. It's here. Thank you. Please introduce yourself. Is that do you hear?
Yeah, good
Yes.
afternoon. My name is Joyce Mapanyane. I come from Botswana, that is in Southern Africa. I'm very, very much intrigued by the panel here, and to know that you are doing such good work in agriculture, especially using remote sensing. Most probably you use drone as well, which will be an added effort. I would like very much to commend the two ladies from Moldova and Georgia. My, question for them is that, how do you make the people, the farmers themselves, interact instead of only the professionals? Do they actually, because I understand is the neighboring countries, how do the farmers who are actually maybe doing the same form of plantation interact to learn from each other and to see how they can actually put up their information for use? My other question to the rest of the group is that, how much do you use crowdsourcing to get information from farmers from various areas? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joyce. I would, before I forget, I would ask everyone in the room if you could please enter the meeting notes and add your names there. We have a template from the RDA organization that you can add your names and your institutions and contacts, so we can know who you are and contact you back. And also we are going to prepare the outputs of this session for the further work. So it's very important for us to know who you all are, and I would encourage you to enter there. There is a link in the session description to the meeting notes. Please do so. And so I'm not sure if so we had this provocation from Joyce here. So would you like to respond to that, Marina, Viorica, or someone else?
I will try to answer your question. So if I understood correctly, the main point of the question, so how, for example, we communicate with our communities. Yes, am I right?
Particularly farmers, I think. Yeah.
Farmers. Yeah, I mentioned, and unfortunately, I had not enough time to present my talk fully, but I would underline that. So my organization, our institute, is a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary organization. Agriculture is one sector of our organization. The main goal of our organization is to maintain databases at the national level and spread this information, disseminate, as well as operate with this information and databases, scientific information, and provide scientists with different kind of services. It is scientific analysis and such kind of things. So in context of communication with the network, we as one of the lead organization in this disseminating of information, scientific information. We have a huge network in different directions, different areas of research. Yes, and in agriculture as well. We have our network, for example, in Armenia and in Azerbaijan as well. We are representing Georgia in different scientific and technical information organization as a representative in Georgia. So we have a huge network, and through this network, we spread this information. But in spite of all this, the RDA, it's like something new for Georgia, because we don't have any good huge experience to cooperate with FDA and with EOS. We just start us at the moment. So what I'm trying to say is that of course it is it's not easy to communicate with this network in order to make them aware about all the benefits, what kind of benefits you could receive after joining such kind of initiatives. But somehow you could start. For example, we play some mediator between Armenia and Georgia, because Armenia and Azerbaijan, because for some reasons there is some historically there is some barriers to communicate to each other. I mean, researchers, and to exchange in context of exchange of scientific information, and not only. So it is a complex question. I could talk about it and describe it in more detail, but if we have a time. But yes, could you just clarify? Did I touch your question or not?
She says she's thanking you. Thank you very much, Marina. We only have 4 minutes left, so
we also have Yasuhiro has a hand up, so
okay,
and they haven't spoken yet. So so maybe if you want to move on, Deborah, but Yasuhiro, if you can ask or talk in the chat, or I want to make sure that you have an opportunity.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, anybody that's the Japanese community of agriculture or precision agriculture is visible for you or not? Is anybody or expert here? No? All right.
No, it sounds like we have some work to do, and maybe that transitions to the next topic. Deborah, you want to talk about plans for June?
Yeah, so I would like to recall to everyone that this is the 10th anniversary of RDA, and there are a series of events going on each month besides this plenary and all the celebrations. So in June is the month for agriculture and environmental data, and I see that Shelley Stahl is here, and she's a co-chair of the environmental and earth science group as well. We have a few ideas for events to have in June. So there is still room for us to plan something. Maybe we can also plan something together, Shelley. So there is the page of RDA, so you can visit and see what's going on. But before we wrap up, I think we should think about some idea of moving on with this conversation. So we have many interests here, and we would have liked to have more time for Viorica and Marina and for all this discussion, but we need to move to continue this after the plenary is finished. So perhaps, do you think it would make sense that we have a session specific on standards? So maybe Clement can present the agro-portal, and we can also talk about the gateway efforts and this soil interoperability standards that were mentioned here. That's an idea from myself. I don't know, Cindy, do you think this makes sense, or anyone else?
I think we have so many ideas here that we could both organize an event, some kind of event in June to tackle at least one big part of this. But then we may also want to organize another webinar series, because we've been very successful in the past at drawing people in and being able to share what everybody is doing. And then it sounds like we also have at least some ideas on working groups that we might also need to start. So I think we have a lot of content. This was a very successful session. I hope that if others were not able to chime in at the moment, if you could make sure that your ideas are in the notes document, or feel free to share them either with us or with our liaisons. This has been really effective. I hope the hybrid format worked. I know it worked pretty well for me. I wish I could be there in Sweden with everybody, but I'm so glad that we were all able to come together today.
Me too. So thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing from online session. I would like to thank all of you very much. The people in the room, Martin for presenting, all the liaisons, and Marina, Viorica specifically for their presentation. We are going to put all the notes and also the chat transcription in the meeting notes. So we are going to prepare the outputs and share with the community. It was great to hear from Viorica that she learned about IGAD in the coffee breaks. That was this webinar series that we had before. So I'm very excited to continue this very interesting conversations with everyone. So thank you all the liaisons and Cindy and everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hope to see
Thank
you
you all.
somewhere
Indeed.
physically.
Hello, so see you.
Salzburg, maybe.
Oh,
All
okay,
right. Bye now.
Okay. Have a
bye.
safe day. Bye.
Have you a nice day.